Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we're going to discuss the main astrology of July 2025. What a cosmic month we have ahead as we open up into many galactic frequencies and we start a new expansion of our own consciousness. This is going to be a very important month for allowing yourself to go higher and remain curious around what you don't fully know or understand, and allow the universe to surprise you, delight you, and also deliver some incredible breakthroughs that perhaps you could feel have been on the horizon and arriving this year. Now, we're going to take a high-level view of July, and that's because there is a lot going on in the transiting energies, but I will cover that in the Wednesday podcast episodes. That's where we look at what's unfolding over the week. But in this show, we're going into the bigger overarching energies that July is blasting open as we begin to evolve faster into a whole new level of consciousness on the planet. Now, it's important to note that this is just a beginning of the energies, and the energies that we're looking at here are many, meaning it's not just one transiting planet. There's multiple developments here that reinforce the theme of expanding our growth and consciousness into higher realms. And this is just an entry point month into these higher cosmic understandings. In fact, they probably won't be understandings. They will be more curiosities, questions, inquiries, and more of a willingness to play and explore with what we haven't known before. So let me get into some of the nitty-gritty here for July. Now, we are going to have 4 planets retrograde starting this month. Neptune, Saturn, Mercury, and Chiron will each be stationing retrograde throughout this calendar month, and I will touch on those in today's show. But some of the bigger, more impactful influences revolve around Uranus entering Gemini on July 7th, which will bring about a quickening on the planet. This is where the energies are going to speed up and we're going to feel them more on a daily basis. There will be a lot of faster moving communications, energies, and frequencies that we are sensing and feeling. And it's also going to be more necessary to find ways to calm the nervous system, settle the mind, ground into the earth, and find ways of disconnecting from the accelerated stimuli. The energies will pick up in significant ways with Uranus in Gemini, which we'll get a sample of here this year, as it will be 4 months of Uranus in Gemini, July 7th to November 8th. Then Uranus returns into Taurus and re-enters Gemini again in April 2026. So starting this month, we are moving into this quickening frequency, and we're all going to be feeling it at various levels of our beings. This could be quite exciting and invigorating. You could feel like parts of your energy field are blasting open and picking up new communications, energies, languages, information, and messages at a whole new level. Again, this really begins in July, but it will unfold into November. And there are new parts of our innate mental programming coming online. So this is an expansion of your spiritual gifts related to that third eye chakra, crown chakra, throat chakra, and it's all moving at that faster speed that can feel very exciting and also extremely ungrounded. You will read energy faster. You will have information more quickly. You'll be able to pick up on energies in a space or in a room with a lightning speed. There will be a new sense of how you're able to interact with people, whether that is reading their energy or effortless telepathy that's always on, almost like it never turns off even at night. New visions, downloads, and understandings are going to be coming through, and it will be necessary to find a way to either write them down or ground them, because they'll also move out quite quickly. And this is one of the big themes here as we move into July, especially those who are on an ascension path, who have been doing the necessary clearing work that has removed the blockages and limitations in these higher capabilities. Now, as Uranus moves into Gemini, there is a beautiful new Galactic Air Grand Trine that starts to become stronger. This Galactic Air Grand Trine involves Pluto in the early degrees of Aquarius, Uranus now in Gemini, and the Super Galactic Center at 2 degrees of Libra. Now, the Super Galactic Center is different from the Galactic Center, which is at the late degrees of Sagittarius. This is at 2 degrees of Libra, and it's a collection of over 50 galaxies that allow us to expand into the cosmic void, and it's obviously located light years away. But in Libra, it brings up a deeper need for true, authentic connection. And what does that mean when we can have a lot of relationships, partnerships, and connections that don't have the depth to them that the Super Galactic Center really needs? So this is also a portal where there are more walk-ins and souls leaving. Astral travel, wormholes, time travel exists here with the Super Galactic Center because it's out of the time-space continuum. This is where we're in new quantum potentials of things happening very quickly and rapidly. So keep in mind that as this Air Grand Trine forms with these galactic points, it's permanently shifting earthly experiences and the beings on the planet. This means there's going to be more disclosures, awakenings, and connections from off-planet beings that our frequencies start to feel and connect with here in July. There is a rising up in our consciousness so that we can see and understand these energies more clearly, and that our minds can hold these quantum potentials more easily. Now, it's important to note that Sedna has been in Gemini, stirring up shocking revelations, stories, and the hidden narratives on the planet. Sedna in Gemini is bringing in new streams of consciousness that challenges previous stories. So here we have both Sedna and Uranus in the early degrees of Gemini. Gemini is the messenger, storyteller, the mind, communications. When you have these outer planets moving into the storyteller domain, previous stories are challenged. There's more questions that come up around collective programming, ancient wisdom, religion, religious texts, what was omitted, what was not fully disclosed, what has been hidden. All of that is going to be activated now because Uranus and Gemini is saying, let's awaken to the bigger stories on the planet. Let's bring the hidden information forward. So now this Galactic Grand Air Trine is working with the air signs between 0 to 3 degrees, as Pluto in Aquarius, Sedna in Gemini, Uranus in Gemini, and the Super Galactic Center in Libra, 2 degrees of Libra, create a grand trine of more fast-flowing, shocking, revelatory information that is going to come online and be more readily available, discussed, understood, and taught. So that's one of the big openings here in July. And as I said, Uranus remains in Gemini until November, but then comes back into Gemini and will voyage through this mutable air sign until 2033. So we're moving into electrifying, shocking territory around cover-ups, false narratives, untruths, and limited data, as we start to understand more of Earth's grand history in the cosmos and how that affects each of us at a more personal level. So that's one thing that's happening here in July that is coming in. The second thing that I think is really significant is how we're going to have on July 24th, the Sun in Leo opposing Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. That occurs at 2 degrees, but it's also a Leo new moon. So we have an amplified, intensified Leo new moon at 2 degrees, directly opposing that Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. And what it's doing is it's continuing to break down your limited sense of self so that you can become more cosmic and evolved in your consciousness. This is challenging our limited me energy, limited lower ego that is only consumed with right now, right here, what I want, what matters to me, and is evolving us further into what is best for humanity and how you can contribute your energy with the best of intentions while not losing yourself, but also not remaining trapped in a previous self-definition. And so this is very creative energy. It's very dynamic, but it requires deep change. And so we're going to have another standoff here in the Leo Aquarius axis that is going to bring about big world developments, changes, power struggles, standoffs, and collapses, because part of this oppositional tension between the energies in Leo and the energies in Aquarius, it's bringing up a very clear understanding of the old paradigm and the new that we're moving into. So we have a sense of that's the old way, and we're meant to evolve into a new way. And I'm using very general terms on purpose because this is more personal for each of us, but it's also happening in the collective. So this means that those who have previously held power are going to hold on and become more extreme in their attempts to maintain power, control, and manipulation that they feel has always worked and should continue to work. But that doesn't serve the evolving collective that's ascending. And with the energies being more powerful, lighter, and clearer, there's more that we see easily. There's less that's truly hidden. There's less that can be manipulated or controlled. And so think of it this way. Those who have always been in some domain of control, they control a story, a narrative, a position, perhaps one that makes them look good. They're really invested in other people subscribing to that narrative. They need other people to believe them, whatever they say, without challenging it. You should just agree, not challenge it, and ultimately believe them, whatever the case may be. And that's because those who are invested in the old ways can have a superiority complex. They believe they are smarter than you. They're more intelligent than you. In other words, they'll see you as sheep, that you are stupid. You should just follow along, do as you're told, believe what they say, don't think for yourself, and just drink the Kool-Aid. And those are people who are very much connected to a power paradigm and a control structure that benefits them. Well, what we're moving into is a new phase where those who are walking the path with you, those who are doing their healing work, those who are fully in the human experience, who are aware that there's a lot that comes up on this journey, the highs, the lows, everything in between. Those are the people who understand that you are in control of your sovereign energy more than ever. Those are the people who know that you're intelligent, who know that you're intuitive and wise, and that you can see things for what they are. You don't have to be told what to believe. You don't have to be told what is going on here, what is clearly evident, because there's a belief in your intelligence. There's an understanding that the truth always rises. And even if that is playing a long game, even if that takes more time, there's a deep honoring of the individual sovereign journey without trying to manipulate it, control it, insert ridiculous narratives and flat out lies. No, it's a belief in the goodness of people, in the goodness of your ascension. And it's not about getting you over here. I mean, this is where you can think of cult leaders who are like, follow me, believe me. Everything I say is accurate. I'm superior to you. I know more than you. I'm the one who's going to tell you the truth because you don't have access to your own truth. These are very clear indicators of the old paradigm and the new paradigm, where those who know that you are embodying the new paradigm with your intelligence, wisdom, intuition, powerful awareness, trust that everyone arrives with the answers and clarity they need at exactly the right time for them. There's nothing to control. There's nothing to even manipulate because the truth is always present and the truth is embedded in universal intelligence, which you are a part of. And so even though it may be difficult to lean back, not interject, or not participate in the old ways, this is exactly what's needed right now. And July is moving us into these faster streams of realizations. People are going to see things with whole new levels of awareness. Less is going to be tolerated or accepted. The old will continue to fight, to hold on, to retain power or the illusion of power. But what this Pluto in Aquarius is saying is that it's asking you to dig deeper into your own truth, to find your own wisdom and answers within you, and take back your power from those who are feeding off of it, siphoning off of it, manipulating you, playing you, believing you're a fool, but only for the benefit of themselves. This is part of the ongoing power struggles of the old and the new, and July is going to accentuate the grand divide here and how people are not tolerating things anymore. They're not having it. We don't want this. This isn't healthy. This isn't good for us. This only accentuates what I don't want to be a part of in my life. And so there will be more extremes. The extremes will arise as part of this ongoing, like an energetic battle, if you will, that will ultimately set people free when they make the right choices for where you're going. When you're making that choice for your path and committing to what you need and what lifts your frequency, what elevates you, that's the direction to follow. And you'll notice, of course, by tuning into your emotions. If you start to feel angry, frustrated, resentful, irritated, annoyed, clearly that's a message that it's not aligning with your frequency. Whereas if you feel more empowered, strengthened, inspired, strong, that's the frequency that is best for you, and that's the path to follow. This is what July is going to continue to bring up, and it's actually a beautiful validation of our ascension, that we've come so far and we've moved into these new higher frequencies, even though it hasn't been easy, because it's required you to be a new version of yourself, to sit with who was I previously and who am I now? What is falling off and falling away because it served its purpose in forming and shaping who I'm becoming, but it's no longer needed. So that's also where you could feel extremes, where you could feel a deep discomfort around that's what I used to do. That's who I used to be. But I'm seeing now there's this whole new version of myself that's arriving. And I feel that July is going to be doing some interesting reprogramming in our auras and in our chakra systems, but I'm also seeing it in the clairs, clairvoyance, clairsentience, claircognizance, etc. There's going to be much clearer levels of information coming in, which I know I touched on earlier here. But this is where you're going to feel a strengthening in your sovereignty around your own spiritual gifts and abilities. And keep in mind, that's not something that other people can validate for you. It's self-verifying. It's understanding that, yes, I'm feeling this differently. I'm seeing this, I'm seeing that. And it might be something to simply keep to yourself or to trust at a personal level of your being. And I think this also then pulls in the retrograde energies of both Neptune and Saturn in Aries. Neptune will station retrograde on July 4th at 2 degrees, 10 minutes of Aries. And then on July 13th, Saturn will station retrograde at 1 degree, 56 minutes of Aries. So they are basically conjunct at 2 degrees of Aries. This is their first retrograde journey in Aries. And there is a need here to deeply integrate what you've been realizing about yourself, where you're ready to choose yourself more, where you're ready to start off on a new path, new direction, to strengthen a sense of independence and courage, to be aware that you're fully capable of handling more on your own in regards to the new starts here that Aries is opening up for us. And this retrograde is asking you to pull the energy back in. And I feel that it's part of our intuitive knowingness that is meant to be strengthened. And it's also giving us time to further integrate whatever you've been contemplating and sitting with about the changes you want to make. Neptune and Saturn retrograde in Aries brings us into our core self. And there's the potential here to realign with more of your truth. And this is truth in the present moment. This is an understanding of what is true for me. And in Aries, it is subjective. It is based on who you are, what you want, what matters to you. And the universe is saying it's time to be stronger in this. It's time to trust yourself more. Choose yourself. Choose what you desire and what is motivating you, but do it at a deep core level of your being where it isn't simply immediate or impulsive. It's not about quick results, which is typically what the Aries energy will seek. But this is a slowdown here. And I think that the slowdown, while it might be uncomfortable at times, it's allowing it to fully land. And I'm seeing this energy land in that root chakra that allows you to face any fears, doubts, uncertainties, anything around survival, being full in yourself, feeling grounded and strong in yourself. We are reprogramming that at very deep levels. And I believe that's one of the gifts here of the retrograde with Saturn and Neptune in Aries. I feel like we are strengthening our sense of self, but I'm seeing it as these downloads from your intuitive guidance and from the soul. Because Neptune is connected to the cosmic weather. And I feel this Neptune in Aries has a direct line to the soul's clear intentions. So this means it can also stir up what you're afraid to do on your own, where you are hesitant around a new start, where you're doubting yourself, your needs, your desires. And the retrograde is going to allow you to purify and cleanse any of those old imprints. Because I'm seeing this as an energy that becomes brighter. It becomes brighter, stronger, bigger, more vibrant, like polishing a mirror and clearing out the old imprints from multiple lifetimes. It does run that deep. So this is personal, sacred work that maybe you're exploring and diving into. And if so, it's beautifully right on time. And July could bring you more insights into the core themes and what you are moving through. Also in July, we're going to have Mercury retrograde in Leo. It begins July 17th and 18th at 15 degrees of Leo, and Mercury will travel back to 4 degrees of Leo in your chart. So you want to identify where you have 4 to 15 degrees of Leo, as this is where Mercury is going to be reprogramming your desires, creative journey, sense of self, and what is in your heart to help develop a fresh perspective and to be in alignment with what's important to you. So every Mercury retrograde, as we know, is about the RE words: reconsider, reprioritize, re-examine, review. It's a slowdown. It's not a good time to begin anything. Rather, it's a time to explore other creative approaches. What's already in motion? Do I really want this? Did I miss something the first time? So allow this to work for you. Allow this to be a period of time where you catch up on anything that has been pushed to the side or you didn't have time for. Maybe you're ready to bring it front and center and review it. This can be a great time to assess more of what inspires you, what gives you life, what is connected to your heart, where do you feel powerful? And you might be surprised to see where you feel the energy sink or rise, where you might feel the energy just taper off. So there's a change of mind, a change of interest, a change of heart, so that you have more energy for what you do want and what you do desire. I will do a separate podcast episode for you on Mercury retrograde in Leo around the middle of July before the retrograde begins, so we can explore these themes more. But again, just a heads up, Mercury retrograde starts July 17th and 18th, depending on your time zone, and it goes until August 11th. So a good 3.5 weeks there. And that means that the first half of July, Mercury is in shadow territory. So whatever is coming up for you to look at or assess, just know it might be a part of your Mercury retrograde experience the second half of the month and into August. And then the fourth retrograde that we have in July is Chiron stationing direct in new territory at 27 degrees of Aries 10 minutes on July 30th. So at the end of the month, we have a standstill here as Chiron brings our attention to what hurts and what needs to be healed. Where are you ready to apply a new medicine or remedy to a part of your sense of self that requires your support, love, compassion, and attention? Chiron has been moving through Aries since 2018, and this has brought up parts of ourselves that need our attention, as well as unraveling who we no longer are. So it brings up our vulnerabilities, insecurities, who we were that is no longer connected to a new truth in our sense of self. Chiron shows us where we have work to do, personal work, internal work, where we are understanding more of what we want, but it's through reflections of the past. And so that's part of why this Chiron can bring up a melancholy energy, a sadness, a pain, or deep discomfort, because we are growing in really significant ways, and the contrasts around who we used to be and who we're becoming are more evident. And Chiron brings to our attention where we're ready to make new choices, where we're ready to see ourselves with honest eyes, be very honest with yourself about who you were or what you did or what mattered to you. And this Chiron in Aries journey brings us into deeper self-questioning and personal inquiry. The Chiron retrograde supports us in changing our frequency, in unraveling, unwinding, and reviewing what else we need to focus on and take care of. I feel this is a beautiful opportunity for self-love and self-compassion, to be in the place of, I want to heal this for me. I'm going to honor my own journey. I'm going to trust what's coming up for me and know that this is the universe showing me more of who I truly am, not who I thought I was or who I thought I had to be. So this can be where any of that sense of self became too big or too extreme, where there was too much wrapped up in the childish ego of Aries, which is one of the lower expressions of the signs, where it's a need to be number one, to prove you're the best, to always be in competition or think that you have to perform or do something in order to get somewhere first. Whereas a more evolved Aries understands that all I can do is my best, be the best of myself, require more from who I am and what I've learned about myself, show up and offer what I can from a pure heart and a strong sense of confidence, knowing there's nothing to prove, there's no need to compete, there's only the offering of my energy in the best and highest way. And Chiron could show you what needs to be further cared for and loved. These messages can be very strong during the retrograde, especially now that Chiron is in new territory here at 27 degrees of Aries. Chiron is going to move back to 22 degrees of Aries and station direct the beginning of January 2026. So there will be the retrograde into early next year between 27 to 22 degrees of Aries in your chart. This is where you are being guided to see a new version of yourself, to love who you were, but to also accept and welcome in the new parts of you that are arriving, that are healed, stronger, and more authentic. So the Chiron retrograde is also an invitation to soften into yourself, to soften into where the pain has been, where the insecurities are, to understand how it all makes you more real and true. And as I say that, I'm reminded of a passage from the book The Velveteen Rabbit. It's a children's literature book about a boy who recovers from scarlet fever, and his toys have to be burned because the toys have the infection. Then a fairy arrives and changes his favorite velveteen rabbit into a real rabbit, and that velveteen rabbit doesn't have to be burned. And so the passage I'm thinking of, I'm going to read it here, is quite famous. Perhaps you've seen it. He said, "You become. It takes a long time. That's why it doesn't happen often to people who break easily or have sharp edges or who have to be carefully kept. Generally, by the time you are real, most of your hair has been loved off and your eyes drop out and and you get loose in the joints and very shabby. But those things don't matter at all, because once you are real, you can't be ugly except to people who don't understand. And of course, full credit to the author Marjorie Williams. So Chiron is the journey of becoming more real, even though it's messy, emotional, intense, but it's also what reconnects you to your authentic self that other people feel, sense, and know. And this is how we also honor our humanness, which is becoming even more valuable in these advancing technologies. And it allows us to stay in a deeper connection with who we really are and to pull in people and connect with people at the same frequency. So as we close out July, this Chiron retrograde in Aries is going to be returning you to your true self, to be curious and aware of who you are, especially at the deep level of your being, without having to continue on a path that doesn't resonate, that shows you more of what you truly want and feel, and allows you to love yourself even more, which I believe is one of the beautiful gifts of all Chiron transits. So July is quite a month, and it will fly by fast, which frankly has been the case for every month this year. But it's a beautiful time to assess what really matters to you at this point in your life. What has meaning? What's substantial? What inspires you? What resonates? Invest in that. Honor your sovereignty. Honor your path. Honor what is true for you. Don't hold back what you really want, because the universe is wanting us to move into more of our full essence without compromise and without doubting in our manifestation abilities. So as I mentioned, I'll keep going into the energies of July on the Wednesday podcast episodes, but I hope this has given you a helpful overview of the dynamic changes that are underway, how our consciousness is going to be expanding through new information, breakthroughs, surprising stories, revelations in ancient technologies, and secret wisdom that will come to light, and that there will continue to be the ongoing power struggles between the old and new paradigms. But with the mass trajectory that we're on, we already have enough light support to move us into the new paradigm, even if the old paradigm continues to be very loud, dramatic, and chaotic. For those of you who are in the 2025 Soul Growth Astrology program, just a reminder to sign in there, because I discuss even more of this Galactic Air Grand Trine in that program. It might be helpful to review it, especially if you have planets or points in the early degrees of the air signs. Again, 0 to 3 degrees of Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. You have big activations going on at a cosmic level, and you might even feel really ungrounded right now. So this could verify that, as well as validate these higher frequencies that you are swimming in. As always, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll be back every Monday and Wednesday for a new podcast episode. Over on my YouTube channel, be sure to check out the playlist around the age of Aquarius energies, where I discuss more of what is developing in the second half of 2025 and how big these planetary alignments are. I hope that helps you get a grip on what might be unfolding for you, as well as what to expect next, because we're going to have some beautiful manifestations happening here, and we need to focus on that, right? Like, we need to know there's good things on the way, there's beautiful developments in motion, and there's a reason to have a lot of hope around what we're creating now. Thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to connecting with you again soon and wishing you a beautiful journey through July.